Hi, my name is Max Dennison. This is another episode of Tech Talks. Today we have a guest, Khalil Saboor. I'll let him introduce himself, and we're going to talk about his journey at becoming a software engineer. Khalil, if you could, please introduce yourself to the audience and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Khalil Saboor. I am currently a software engineer too at American Express. I'm also the co-founder of Black Tech Philly. We are a nonprofit based in the city of Philadelphia that is looking to uh, help Black and Brown students get into tech. Currently, we are working with the Boys Latin Charter School out in West Philadelphia, teaching them Python and also hoping to incorporate some Java programming as well as those students prepare for the AP exam for the next school year. So,
Nice, nice. Thanks, Khalil, for joining us today. We should have an exciting conversation. I'm glad we met via. I don't know exactly where we met, but I know we met, and I know we've talked on LinkedIn a little bit. But to get right into it, Khalil, tell us a little bit about where you grew up, um, and let's start there. What high school? Tell us a little bit about your story.
yeah, sure. So, for me personally, yeah, I grew up in West Philadelphia for a couple of years, just working out, being a kid, and obviously when I got older, I moved to West Oak Lane up in North Philadelphia. So it's not a lot of, going on as far as like middle school is concerned up until about like 12, 13. My mom got us like a house and got us a house to rent from. We moved out of North Philadelphia just because of the crime to Little Marion. And so I wound up going to Welsh Valley Middle School for my eighth grade year, and then yeah, I wound up going to Harrington High School for my current high school career. Just because that was just the only option that was available for me, just within that current neighborhood and that I was living in. And yeah, as much as I wanted to go to Little Marion, it just wasn't really the opportunity that they had open for me at that time. But I still learned a lot about tech. I learned a lot about, just working hard, going to a very competitive public school as well. So,
Okay. When you were growing up, did you have an interest in tech? Was it always an interest, or what was your first instinct to get into tech, or what was your first?
yeah, yeah, sure. I mean, for me, I always had like an interest in working with like tech, as far as playing, games on my mom's computer as a kid in the early like 2000s, playing on the PlayStation as well. But yeah, I didn't really have that type of like vision on if tech was like for me, up until I was about like 13, 14. And that's when like, my dad kind of came back into my life and he wound up introducing me to some of the events around Philadelphia via going to the masjid, with him. And so I wound up meeting one of his friends, Dean, who was also working with another teacher, Tariq Hook, out at Temple. And so I wound up going there, uh, going as part of their like STEM program. I think it was like Mesa or something. And we were just learning Java, just like learning like basic Java, kind of learning how everything works from the first program you create, which is Hello World, up until understand just how like the different objects and data types work. There's a lot of other sponsorship from the US U.S. Navy and also Army as well. So we were able to go to like DC and just kind of meet some people working in tech and some of the jobs that they particularly work in, careers are also out there as well. But I wound up taking this a slightly different turn, and that was just mostly just talking to my like teachers in school. I went back to high school because that class was only like Saturdays. I just learned a little bit of Java every Saturday, and then went back to high school. And so I told my chemistry teacher, Mr. Banto, about me like learning like Java. And I think from him taking computer science as part of his, like his major being as a teacher, he was just like, oh wait, I know this event is happening in Philly. And it was this like coding like context, it was a sorry, what's the term? It was a hackathon at the University of Pennsylvania, and that was for like high school students. So, and I got my school laptop. I said, yeah, I can probably do that. I can make my own little app because they say they offer like some like mentorships and guidance for building your own app. But like honestly, when I went there to that hackathon, I was like just blown away at all the other high school students are coming from like across the country. You had students from coming from very strong STEM schools in Connecticut. You had students coming from like Maryland. I think students from like Texas as well. Already had their like laptops, their like MacBooks and everything. And I'm just like, okay, I can figure out how to do it. And I wound up, having like a small team of tech students that I work with, and I didn't have a lot of programming skills, but I saw just what it means to work in a team, and through some of the mentors who were there we were able to build like a small application that can describe like parts of the brain. So it's like touch. It was like pretty much text to voice, and I took the little bit of coding that I knew personally to help with that, and also just some of the stuff I learned from school as well. Because I took having a little bit of history, and then I took a little bit of psychology as well during my junior year of high school. I was able to kind of incorporate that in the application and kind of contribute to more of like how do we describe these different types of the brain, and how do we go about going in and hooking up all the different data and information uh, together. So I kind of had that like sophomore year, a bit of a mindset of like, okay, I definitely want to get into tech. I have this program I'm in called like the Mesa program at Temple. I'm a black software engineer. Met a couple black software engineers who actually work there as well, or were part of that program. So I kind of had that mindset, but still need to kind of put stuff together as I gone into my junior and senior year, as stuff start to get a bit more serious as far as like what college you're going to go to, what tests you're going to take, and come in clutch again. My chemistry teacher, Mr. Banto, he helped started the like first NESB program. So there's NESB, which stands for the National Society of Black
Yeah, black engineers. Yeah,
Engineers. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, but they have a junior one you can put it for your middle schools and high schools. So he started at Harrington High School, mostly white high school, but still a school that had a small population of black students who were interested in STEM. And so we created a program. We all pitched in, our like $5 for the membership. And, we went to one of the like NESB, like the larger college events out in Pittsburgh. And so we go out to Pittsburgh, and I'm this is the first time I ever left Philadelphia going out west. So we're in a car for 5 hours going through the mountains. I'm like, oh my god, what's going on? And we get to Pittsburgh, you just see all these bridges, and it's a different structure city than what you see in Philadelphia. But as we went to that program, that's really where I start to see more of like myself, someone who was also black but in STEM. But you had black people who were in like bioengineering, you had black people who were in chemistry, or in like a chemical engineering, um, civil engineering as well. And we went to a lot of the events there, sponsored by either by the military or just by the University of Pittsburgh as well, where we got a bit more personal tours of the engineering, the different engineering majors and stuff that you can do with going to the University of Pittsburgh. And so, I kind of got, my mind right in the right place of, okay, after touring this college, seeing what that college has to do. I know for going to Harrington, we had a power program. So I got to tour like a black college too. So we went to go tour Howard. So I'm like, okay, Pitt and Howard. I got a better understanding, what college looked like, how I could see myself going to college and fitting in just from seeing the people who are working hard, to the people who, graduated college. Because we were going to the university, we were going to I'm sorry, trying to remember the university we went to, because part of the NESB junior program was you work with a college local to where you live. And so Villanova was the college that we went to, where we kind of learned a bit more about where the Black software engineer students or the Black engineer students are doing there as well. So having that personal connection, even though it wasn't too deep, it was deep enough to understand what they're doing. And talking to some of the teachers there, that I got a better understanding of like, okay, what college will look like, what a day to day might look like, and how can I like get there? Because for me, I had a bit of like a rocky start, generally, in high school, and socially as well, just either dealing with like bullying for like liking like whatever type of like major like anime and cartoons, or just being just straight nerdy. So I had just that, and just understanding how competitive that high school was. I struggled with my own grades. I think I ended my high school career with like a 2.9, and I just got over 1200 for that SAT. But I still took that seriously as best as I possibly can, and talked to my teachers. And I was able to attend uh, a four-year university going by the name of sorry, just trying to remember it because it was been like a long time ago, but it was Arcadia out in Glenside, PA. So I went there for like a year.
So,
Major.
so hold on
Oh,
1 second.
oh yeah,
I want to,
yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
I want to slow you up a little bit because you gave me a lot. I want to break up some of the information in pieces. So
Yeah.
I want to pull it back just a little bit. So from very early, you knew you wanted to be in tech. There were different things. It seems like you went to some programs. Did you have a mentor early?
I think, for me, I didn't have a mentor as far as like I had teachers, in the program who, spend more time, talking to me, just because throughout all those programs, even with my high school teacher, those were still one Black person. There was still one Black person in the classroom, or one person who had the free time. And so I kind of, took whatever, a good amount of the leadership and the mentorship going into it, from them, whether it's them getting understanding about coding, or talking with Tariq, as he talked about how it's really important to focus on school, just because the girls who don't like you, in high school, they're gonna like you in college, because that's all those cool guys are going to be in one area, but you're going to be in college, you're going to be at a 4-year university, and it's going
Gotcha.
to be a much of a smaller pool to kind of work with. Or just talking with my high school teacher about just the different majors and different type of engineering, where I got a bit of understanding from him from that point. So
Okay. So you're going to these different programs. You're learning. You're going to hackathons. You're doing some traveling. You get to get outside of Philly, but you mentioned Pittsburgh, where we're at. Um, at that point, did you still know that you wanted to be a software engineer, or what? You just knew you wanted to be in tech? It could have been physics. It could have been anything in tech. Did you know you wanted to be a software engineer at that moment?
yeah, I mean, in high school, when I did the NESB junior program, I still wasn't sure if I wanted to become a software engineer, but I knew with the amount of coursework and classes that my high school had, I could take a lot of different classes to figure out what engineering made sense. Because I know for me, engineering was kind of the main thing I wanted to kind of go into. It seemed like something that involved me, not only just thinking really hard about the problem, but I'm also able to have a bit more of a stable life of just having a base, salary coming in. And so, I took a lot of different STEM classes throughout high school, even some that were like extremely like difficult, whether it's like taking physics during the summer to get like an extra course, or, I also took Saturday classes. I took another level of like chemistry that was like about like 2-hour labs, just to understand if I want to do like any type of chemistry engineering for that, or a type of bioengineering. And I kind of settled in on the software engineering when I took my first computer science class my senior year, and how I was kind of able to just to get through it. I was able to. It was difficult, but it was just still worthwhile dealing with just different problems, understanding how like Java works, and also also just meeting other students in that form. It didn't seem as competitive as the other engineering or math backgrounds that I felt comfortable going into software engineering, even to like my senior year of school. So
So would you encourage kids, just listening to your story, would you encourage students, high school students, to what take extra courses to start off with, just weekend courses, join programs? It seems like that was a big part of your success.
yeah, yeah, I definitely, just again, just talking over my like GPA again, it's a 2.9, but I took different classes that made sense. I took extra STEM classes just so I can get a better understanding, because by the time I got to college, it wasn't difficult doing some of the coursework as far as math as well, just because you're putting this a little bit more effort. It's also, this doesn't hurt just to do outside programs outside of your high school, even if your class, like if they don't have a computer science, it doesn't hurt just to look at like, websites such as like free code camp, or going to like maybe like any type of like high school or a Saturday program that you could learn more about tech or learn more about engineering, just because like that's more key than taking the extra class or so. If you can do like an outside program that's less stress, that you don't have to think about. Because when I learned Java back in, like 2012, I just had like just a base knowledge of it. I didn't, it wasn't a part of like my grade. It didn't hurt me. Then it was just kind of something that I learned. I play around, on the, on my PC, up until like now in my current career, I work as a software engineer, where it's like, hey, the type of Java that I'm using is Java that I used, back when I was like 15, 16, So it's helpful to kind of span whatever the stuff that you're doing outside of school as well, just as much as inside of school. And don't worry too much about the grade. Just kind of learn about the different experience you can learn from it, or the coursework. Just do the best that you can, because that's literally what I'm doing, right now. So
Sounds good. Sounds good. Appreciate that. All right, so we're getting you're in high school, you're taking courses. It's time to choose a university or it's time to graduate. What's the plan? What was your plan? Where did you end up attending? Uh, yeah, let's talk about that.
yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, my plan mostly was to either go to a four-year university that either had like a strong STEM program, or go to, community college, just because both my parents didn't have like a lot of money. I didn't have like a lot of money saved up for college. And so I knew going in, I definitely didn't want to go to a four-year school and like drop out, but I didn't want to go to community college and just have like a more of a longer time getting that like four-year paper. And so I wound up settling going to Arcadia, which is out right outside of like North Philly. I went there for about I went there for 1 year, but I picked that college because their engineering program was really good. They had what they call a 3+2 um, program, where you go to your four-year university, but you finish it in 3 years, and then you can go to either the University of Pittsburgh or the University of St. Louis for like 2 years, and then you get a second a second bachelor's as well. So I was kind of aiming for towards like doing that, as I work go towards my first college and going to school. So
Got you. Got you. And how was the program? Was it tough? If you could give somebody advice, if you could give a high school student advice, and they're let's just say they're in ninth or 10th grade, and they're preparing to go down the same journey as you. They're preparing to go to post schooling after high school, whether it be a community college or university or even a boot camp. What skills did you have that made you be able to complete it or get through it? And what would you tell your, I guess, even your older self, if you could go back and talk to yourself, what would you have been working on that would have made going through the program easier?
yeah, yeah. I think for me, because yeah, I wound up, not finishing just because of the finances, but I would say it, even for like your ninth, you're in high school, you're in ninth grade, definitely focus on like finances now. Just learn how finances work. Learn how you read a paper that describes your how much money that you'll be spending for college. One of the biggest things that happened was going when I was going to college was that I whatever the tuition paper that they give you, the layout and everything, you want to really be able to carefully read that and consider that you're going to be able to get all the type of loans or scholarships that you need. Because if not, you're going to have a hard time trying to focus on your schoolwork. That was the biggest thing for my freshman year of college was that I'm focusing on how to make money while also trying to stay in school. So because the coursework was easy, but it was easy, but I'm focusing on applying the scholarships that I'm not even doing the work because I'm trying to stay in school, and to definitely like, avoid that situation where you might miss a scholarship because the financial aid department might have took something away because you decided to commute to school instead of going to school, which is the issue for me, is that really try to hone in on getting your GPA to a good level, especially like a 3.0 and up. Use your Think of your GPA. This is what someone told me too. And I take this, I think this, even the heart is consider your GPA like your like personal stock within like a large company. Like you are your own company. If you have a if you had a stock on the market and it was worth like 2 cents, would you really like invest money into it? And you probably would say like yes or no. But if it was something like Apple or like Tesla, where it's like hundreds of dollars and you're going to get more money coming in every quarter, you're going to want to invest in those companies, right? So you want to position yourself and your grade point average just like a stock within like a larger company. So if you had a really bad year, try to figure out how you could do better the next year, whether it's working with matters, having friends around you who's always doing their homework, you doing that homework, with them, spending extra time with that teacher after school. I did that probably every year, throughout high school. I found a teacher who had the free time after high school to go over like my French or go over, my English and math classes, and to spend that extra, 1 hour with them or 45 minutes or whatever, just to understand more about their coursework. Just because, yeah, you don't want to be in that position where you're thinking about finances and you're thinking about college, going to college at the same time. It's a really bad feeling because you're already overstressed. You're going to that school, meeting new friends. You don't want to have money over the top of your head like that. You want to be able to be secure going to your first year of college or your first few years of college so you can finish it. Because from what I've been told, even from my black math teacher, um, Mr. Plummer, out in like junior year of high school, he always said like the easiest is really easy to get into college actually. The hardest thing is getting out of college, which is getting that paper. And so you want to make that the easiest thing as possible, whether it's like, making sure your grade point average is good to you're making sure you're doing the right activities outside of school, whether it's playing that sport or, doing an extra club, just so you can have that larger scholarships going in, so you're not thinking about money. You just focus on your coursework and then focus on the internships every
Mm,
year. So
got you. So okay, so you said you didn't finish, um, or Arcadia. You still want to be in tech.
yeah.
What Walk me through your next steps. How did you rebound? What was your next steps as far as getting credentialed or whatever happened for you to continue your journey in tech? What happens now?
Yeah, I mean, after that, I wound up working at Starbucks. I worked at a gas station at Starbucks, is kind of just making ends meet, paying off, the student loans just from leaving school. But I still had like an interest in tech. And so uh, I wind up, just going on YouTube, figuring out how to become a software engineer. You got all these guys like Facebook and Twitter, all these people, multimillionaires who dropped out of college. How did they do it? And, I found out the truth. Some of them were just rich, some of them had the money. But then I also found other resources around me that people have made over time that make it easier to get into tech if you don't have a college, a 4 year paper. And so one of
Khalil,
them, oh, yeah.
do you mind sharing some of those? I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but do you want to mind sharing some of those for somebody who may be in the same position, some of those resources for somebody who
Yeah,
wants to.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. I was just getting ready
Oh, sorry.
say that. But yeah, but yeah, one of the resources that helped me and it's still out there, it's still free, and I tell everyone about it is free code camp. So if you go to freecodecamp.com, I think, or is it freecodecamp.org? They are a free site where you can learn software engineering. And I learned the basics of, um, CSS, HTML. As it got a bit more like funding, they had a little bit of Python, so I learned Python as well. And I was learning JavaScript too, so I learned how to build my own websites just using that type of software. And just going to like meetups in public. So if you go to like meetup.com, there's tons of meetups that you can find around your local city, especially if they're tech based, and you're able to kind of like see like different events going on. At least that was happening for me around Philadelphia. So going on Free Code Camp was like the online thing, and then going on meetup.com and looking at the meetups in the area that were tech based and that were free, that I could go to and kind of learn more about tech, learn more about what people are learning, what people are talking about. What is the industry like for just working inside of like Philadelphia? And so I wind up doing that for about 1 year straight. I just being on that website, learn how to make websites, and I wind up seeing a Facebook ad for this coding boot camp, which was Zip Wilmington. It's still there. It's based in the Wilmington, Delaware area. And I saw there's two things that I saw for the Facebook ad. I saw my first teacher, which was Tariq Cook, and then I saw another student who I also saw from the high school program that I was in way back like my freshman year of school. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, like this is a boot camp. You don't have to be in school. You can go through that and get you a job at somewhere like Capital One, JP Morgan and Chase. And I took it upon myself to start, learning Java again, like relearning Java and just applying for that program because unlike most boot camps in the area, this was a nonprofit boot camp, and and you can get a scholarship just for going to the boot camp and funding to help you be able to go to that boot camp because it's a full-time job basically, and like I literally had to quit my job at Starbucks and put all my effort into this boot camp for the next 3 months or so just so I can get ready to become a full-time software engineer. So.
Okay. Nice, man. Nice. So you finished the boot camp, I'm assuming, and what's your first position and what is that like?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, after the boot camp, about like 6 months, later, I'm just meeting other people, trying to network. That I got my first job at GSK as a software engineer, and so that I got, just from networking and meeting other Black engineers in the area. I met up with Dean May, who just recently moved from Capital One to GSK, but he was also, hiring within the area. And, I didn't have like a fully working project, but I had, different projects on my like GitHub. And I wound up networking with him and showing him that he wound up, bringing me in just for the um, phone call, and then full on for the technical interview where I got my first job. And that was a really great program, a really great first job, because it was a program within itself that were for software engineers or people in tech coming out of college or coding in boot camp for the first time. We're going to rotate on different teams and different type of like projects throughout your 18 months working, for GSK. And so I worked on a front end team where we build like we worked on, building out different website features like buttons, sliding menu, headers, footers, the fonts, to working on a chatbot microservice team, which the chatbots are like all that hype now, and it's crazy. I'm looking at chatbots, I'm just like, oh, I could do that now if I wanted to, learn how to make, my own little chatbot. But I learned how to make, chatbots on that team and using, Node.js and TypeScript and kind of working with like Docker and Kubernetes as well, just to get everything fully working and talking to each other. And and we had also like IBM Watson doing a lot of the questioning and like answering for questions on the prompts and the context of what was going on. And so, I learned a lot about, artificial intelligence, but also just a good amount of that baseline of like what it means when, how people are using chatbots now, but how to make a very context-based chatbot, whether it's for a particular like medication, which that was the Benlysta medication that is a needle that helps you treat lupus. And so I worked on a like chatbot feature that connects to like your Echo Dot home um, home device to be able to like talk to you about like how to take the medication. So it will like talk to you about like how to take it, how to take that actual needle, how long to keep it on you, talk about any health benefits for using the medication, and it plays music for you as well, right? Those are all the different types of like nodes and connections I made with a hardware, a physical hardware like I'm sorry, just stuttering quite a bit, but just understanding how that physical hardware works and connecting it with like software as well. And I wound up working on that team and then switching over to a like mobile team as well, where I learned like iOS and Swift. I work with Richard Robinson. I'm creating like my first like iOS app, which is a like just a simple like notes app to build like a full like iOS watch app that connects like your heart rate, being able to kind of monitor your health as you were to do like GSK like trials for um different medication. And after working for that for about 18 months, close to like 3 years of that program, that's when I started, feel a bit more confident to want to go into like the job market and getting my like second role. So
Got you. I want to dig a little bit more into the first job and that learning curve. So, obviously going to a boot camp, and sometimes, in my opinion, boot camps can move rather quickly. But going from like a boot camp environment or even from a university environment to a job where you got real deadlines, yeah, you're dealing with real people. You can no longer just take your time to build out. You know, like you can at college. Essentially, you have whatever
right.
time for the projects due, but now you're on a real deadline. You're dealing with real people who want real results. How was that curve of I guess experience? How did you adapt? Was it too fast, or did you happen to get out of a good company where they took their time with you? And what advice would you give for somebody who's coming from a boot camp? Also, I'll say even in my experience going to a startup, you know, um, demographically the people look different. You might not see a lot of African Americans or Latinos or women. Um, how did you adapt to that? I just want to give people a little bit more into that because you honestly you make it sound easy, Khalil, and I know that everywhere maybe it was a little bit easy for you. I know everywhere it's not going to be easy, but what would be some tips do you give people if they get there and they're having a tough time picking up maybe the language, or maybe they're having a tough time communicating? How did you kind of speed up your learning curve at your first position?
Yeah, and I think for me, it took me like quite some time. I think once I got to the mobile team, I had a pretty good idea of like how to handle myself, just because I had a manager who who acted not only as my manager but acted as my like mentor as well, as I started learning about like mobile and learning more about software engineering, working in the corporate world. I think also the fact that he was also black, I'm also black as well. where we had just a bit of a better connection of kind of understanding more about how to handle yourself on a week by week basis, because a lot of times working, at my first job as a software engineer, I struggle a lot with just not breaking stuff, but also not, not taking too long getting the actual work done. And so what I learned over time and up until I got to work on the mobile team was to always ask questions about the work that you're being given to. Even if everything is fully has a lot of detail, has a paragraph, two paragraphs of words, it has like a whole essay. Always
Okay.
ask questions about how everything works. Um, it's important that like the first 30 to 90 days is you not actually getting the work done, but you actually learning how everything works, learn how the company makes money, whether it's talking to like your manager or another engineer on your team. And it doesn't hurt to talk to other engineers outside of that team as well, just to introduce yourself, be like, hey, I just joined this company. I see that you're working on the same ticket. Is there any way I could talk to you, to better understand about like what you do, as a software engineer or what works, for that company. And so those were kind of one of the things that I started doing when I started working on the mobile team. I started asking questions a lot about like why exactly are we doing why are we writing this testing format, this testing in this type of format compared to the other team? Why are we working with the cloud in this form? Why do we have, why exactly are we, doing these sprints in like 1 week instead of like 2 weeks, And so the more that you, at least for me, especially if you're working on a team where you're the only black person, maybe you don't have a black manager. Like at my current job, I worked on two teams. I was the only black person. It still makes sense just to kind of ask questions first
Mhm.
and to like always be taking notes through every meeting that you're in. Just take notes about like who's talking, what's the main topic, and just ask a question or two. Be able to ask like one or two questions either after the meeting, or during the meeting. It helps people understand like where you're at as a software engineer, and also how they might need to add more detail to what they're constantly doing. Because a lot of people have expectations when they write up like a documentation or work to do that. This is perfect. This person should be able to do it 100% with no questions asked. And so, and sometimes you just gotta be that person to ask a question, be like, hey, what does that mean by you want me to change this config in this type of like chatbot service? What does this mean when you want to change the mobile app to work on the latest iPhone and not the older iPhones? Going about asking those questions, even if it feels dumb, because you might have that mindset in high school or college, like, oh, I don't want to ask this question because everyone's gonna think I'm dumb. Teacher might say no. It don't work
Mhm.
like that in the real world. You gotta ask these questions now because that's how you get better at asking questions, just
Right.
shifts in
Right.
life, So it's so important to kind of like start breaking that mindset down as soon as you get your first job to be willing to ask questions and be willing to also answer questions too. Even if someone said, hey, does this code looks right? Honestly, be like, does it look right? Look at it, and just if you can't tell, ask questions about it. Ask, what is this code doing? How is this code working? Do you feel like it makes sense to add this type of like writing into what you're doing? And so you got to really think about how when people say that a lot of what engineering is in general is problem solving, think about how problem solving also involves asking questions and just not knowing stuff and being comfortable just not knowing anything, because that's just how it works as a software engineer. You're not going to know everything, so it's always best to kind of have that mindset coming in, so you can go about asking those questions. So
No, I think that's great advice. I think that's great advice, and hopefully, anybody listening can take something from that. And I agree with you 1,000%. Definitely ask questions. Definitely, there is no dumb question. I know that's kind of cliche.
right,
People say that, but there really isn't any dumb questions. If you don't understand anything, it will only benefit you and your team if you ask those questions. So I definitely appreciate that. So I want to, because we're running through time, and I know you ended up at American Express. So uh, walk me through, your next couple steps. You're at, I believe you were at GSK. Uh, what happens next, and ultimately, how do you get to American Express?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So, just, quickly, yeah, I wound up going to Afrotech about my like third year working, or close to my third year working at GSK, and that was about back in 2020, yeah, about 2020, or actually 2021. I started going to the Afrotech conference, and that was a virtual conference. It's usually in person, but it was virtual because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And so what happened was, I went to that conference and met a lot of Black software engineers, and I just networked. I wind up going. I don't know how to explain this, but like I guess going to the boot camp that I went to and talking to some of like my teachers in high school and just meeting other Black engineers at my first job, I kind of knew how to network, just learn how to ask questions, learn how to be inquisitive about what people are doing, and just be, interested in getting to know that person. And so I wind up talking to a hiring rep just at American Express about, what I've been doing for the past 3 years at my first job, interested in learning more about like the banking and just finance in general, because I heard a lot of good things about people who work at American Express. And they wound up, taking the resume that I gave them, and I want to get, a phone call about 2 weeks later after the
Mm,
conference just to go meet up with them on a phone call just to go over my resume. And then yeah, I went through about like 3 rounds. One was a personal interview. Then I had one that was tech based, and then one with my manager, just more so about how I handle myself, and also how do I go about solving a certain tech problem that relates to the core technologies that team was currently using. And so uh, yeah, a lot of what kind of what tells into just going back to getting that second job is to be able to kind of network and talk to people and being able to show people what you've been doing, whether it's you explain whether you explain the actual technology and what you've done to like a fine detail, or you having a personal project on GitHub that people can look at and see that like, okay, you've done some things relating to like Java, you did some things relating to building your own website that I can like take that and be like, okay, this person knows what he's doing. Or if you give someone your resume and you're describing how you delivered a certain work and how you contribute, to a certain feature or a product, and people can see that, that's way more type of like validation than you just working on a project by yourself and then you just quit and got your new job, or you done like you've been working on just learning how to do the actual coding problem, but you're not working at your actual job first. When you start trying to deliver stuff quicker, and you're talking about how you speed up a certain process, those are the indicators that someone can say like this person's been working in the industry for some time and they know exactly what they've been doing. And so that's kind of been like the helpful things going to that conference and networking too. It's just talking about my own experience and crafting that story. Like this interview has been what about 45 minutes, but if we're in like a conference, I'm displaying my whole life or explaining my whole tech journey in about 30 seconds. Then 30 more seconds I'm explaining what I'm trying to do with you as far as the hiring manager or whoever working at the booth at the time, what that company has to offer. Because the elevator pitch that what I learned from my coding boot camp, it's like the biggest important thing that you want to have as a skill to be able to kind of sell yourself and sell the story of where you're coming from, and at least under like 1 minute. And I think for me, I kind of do it in 30 seconds just because I talk really fast. And also I know I have a lot more to offer. So I do talk about my whole background in 30 seconds, but I do try to spend about 30 more seconds about what I'm trying to do to help them. So, and and they have the opportunities available for like their own job, just to be quicker with that type of format. So
got you, got you. Appreciate it, man. As we wrap up, I want to give you a chance. I got two more questions. We want to try to get through them as quick as we can while still giving a very good and well worded answer. One, I want to kind of delve into something a little bit more fun. Explain a little bit about your love for video gaming and animation and how that connects with tech and in any way.
yeah, yeah. I think for me, I've been playing I've been playing video games, man, yeah, since at least for me, I definitely want to say it since like I was like a kid. You know, I think watching my brothers play like Final Fantasy 7, you know, watching them play the whatever the newest like Madden or like 2K to even me having my own PlayStation and I'm playing, you know, my own like games as well. And I think working in tech uh has at least helped me understand how much work goes into building your own game. You know,
Right.
I've been trying to learn more about like how to build my own like video games for a while, but I'm able to kind of like appreciate when there is like a small bug that happens in your game because it's just like, man, you know, they spend hours, even weekends on that. Whereas for me as an engineer, I spend Monday through Fridays and that's it. I'm not building the next, you know, Call of Duty. I'm not working on something like Madden where we're trying to figure out how to get the right, you know, tackle to look right every single time. But at least for me, there's way more information out there for a lot of younger children to kind of get into like that type of tech and far as like building games now. And so, you know, going on somewhere like YouTube or TikTok, you see other people kind of building out their games, building out small little features, and it's just great. It's great to see people kind of going through that. Just because, like for me, it was more just like you read this book, you learn a little bit of like you know C++, and then you can go about building a whole big a small game. And for me, I'm just like I'm not doing all that. It's a little bit too long, but you know I think I'll be fine playing the game, just appreciating whenever that game comes out. That team needs an extra month they probably need 3 months, you know, but that extra month is getting rid of probably 90% of the bugs that you see in your like favorite game. You know, so when you
Right.
see that one bug in your game, just be glad that it's just one bug, you know, and it's not like 10,000 bugs that go on because it's just a lot of ingenuity is being put into making sure everything works together in this hyper realistic form. So
All right, man. Last question, and then I want you to close out kind of with how people could reach you if they have any questions or want to learn more, or potentially even get advice from you if they were to get something from this conversation. What do you think it takes? You being from West Philly, you spoke earlier about coming from some tough neighborhoods, tough environments. It's the same here in Pittsburgh, and I think there's tough environments all over the country. Um, but how do you? Because it's very tough now. If you had a magic wand, I guess, how do we get more young African American men, women, and I would say black or brown women in general? How do you think we can get more people involved in tech? You know, it's still predominantly dominated by one demographic. How do we get other people interested?
yeah. Yeah, you know, I think for me, you know, one of the biggest things that I've been thinking about this problem, just working, you know, a part of like Black Tech Philly for a long time, and I talk with like Ian, you know, who's also you know one of my co-founders along with Ryan, and one of the things that we talked about was even just getting people just to understand the type of technology that they want to use first, you know, and incorporating coding in that form. You know, I think. Um, whether it's if someone wants to build like their own video game, figure out how to build an actual game and show them how to do it, just so they can know how it works. You know, I feel like that's one of the or if they want to learn how to produce music, show them how to actually, you know, learn how to go about producing music and getting other people, connecting people who work in that field and getting them to bring either get them to build out a course or get them to go into the actual hoods, you know, to go talk about what it means to go into like sound, you know, sound and different types of like music engineering. But you know, I feel like honestly, a lot of those things that's what's going to really work is making sure every student can have their own computer, and
Hmm.
you know, whether it's maybe you know can't have the newest MacBook that's way too expensive, but having like a PC, having a Windows computer, or having a computer that's like you know using like open source software, whether it's like you know using uh Linux on like on a older ThinkPad, it works, you know, and it's able to do all the same things. That's just something that every black student I think needs to have, every black children needs to have is that technology more of a using of a working computer more so than like the newest phone, the newest iPad, because The iPad and the phone, that's just for casual times or for one part of the business. That computer, how to actually type, how to use all the shortcuts, that's something that you can use whether you're working as an engineer or you're working, at a corporate job doing you selling houses. Those learn how to actually use your computer is probably the most type of knowledge and power you can give to one person because that can open up doors for any type of job as much as you get in your like 4-year bachelor's, because learn how technology works and learning how having your own personal computer and learn how that works like the back of your hand, you're able to do a lot more stuff. You have to show people a lot more ideas clearly. And yeah, you're closer than me having someone teach you how to build your next app or your next, game, is that you have your own personal working computer that you can use. So
Got you, man. So before you go, Khalil, if somebody wanted to reach you, um, please tell them. I guess this is your, LinkedIn. How can they reach out to you? And thanks again for some time. Uh, well, thanks for your time, not some time. Thank you
yeah.
for your time and really explaining your tech journey. And thank you for another tech talk. But I'm going to end it with you, man. If they wanted to reach you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, yeah. You feel free to reach me out. I am on LinkedIn. I am also on blacktechphilly.org. So if you go to blacktechphilly.org, you're able to see our main website. You're also to see the rest of the board members who actually contribute to our main goal as well. And yeah, those are kind of like the main two ways you can access out for any research or information. Definitely, if LinkedIn says you should send a note, send a note. I might be able to help you quicker too. Whoever has a question about what books that make sense to buy, or courses that we're going to look at, I'm more than happy to kind of explain more about how to go into tech or what else to look forward to working your first job. Because yeah, the way I explain it, it sounds easy, but a lot of it isn't easy. A lot of it's
Correct.
just a lot of hard work, banging your head against whatever type of textbook or coding course, and yeah, making something positive out of it. So
Thank you, man. Appreciate your time, man. Thanks everybody for tuning in to Tech Talks. We'll see you guys in another few weeks. All right.
alrighty.